Should you even care about B550? That's a good question. It 100% depends, but it's probably not for most of you. Let's talk.
By this point, you've probably seen our original ad for Thermal Grizzly's Carbonite pads. They're clean, peace of mind replacements for traditional thermal paste, and best of all, you'll never have to replace them. But did you also know that you can buy Carbonite pads in different sizes for various processors? 32x32mm for Intel desktop CPUs, 38x38 for Intel HEDT and Ryzen, 25x25 for the RTX 2080 GPU, and so on. They even make a giant 51x68mm pad for Threadripper. I highly recommend Carbonite pads, and you can learn more by clicking the link below.
So in order to map out the viability of this new chipset, we need to understand what advantages it brings to the table. PCIe 4.0. Now to be clear, if you're considering a board with PCIe 4 speeds, you likely aren't in the market for a B554 to begin with. Or maybe you are, maybe my assumption is misplaced, but I say that for a few reasons. The B series chipsets are targeted primarily toward value-oriented buyers, and most of them aren't buying ultra-fast and fairly expensive Gen 4 M.2 drives. What's more, it wouldn't make a ton of sense to spend heaps of money on a 12 or 16 core Ryzen CPU only to pair it with a cheap motherboard. And the same goes for the opposite case. It doesn't make sense to spend as much money on your storage drive, on one storage drive, as you would on your CPU. Maybe it does for some use cases, not in my book. Now look, I'm not trying to say that B series boards are crap, okay? Plenty aren't, and it's unlikely you'll notice the difference between a B550 board and an X570 board, in the real world anyway. Besides maybe what you hear, B550 chipsets don't require active cooling, thank God, like most of their X570 counterparts, so if sound is a serious concern, you might want to stick with X470 or B450 or 550. But apart from Gen 4 NVMe speeds, don't expect this additional PCIe bandwidth to yield any additional graphical horsepower. I mean, graphics cards today aren't limited by PCIe 3, so moving to 4 changes literally nothing. In fact, some modern cards get by just fine on PCIe 2.0, so don't fall for any of the hype online about it magically unleashing your graphics card's full potential. Other differences between B450 and 550 boards are more subtle. You might find a Type-C port in the latter, and you might enjoy the newer designs a bit more, but through and through, aside from select storage drives, you won't notice a difference. So if you're already on B450 and not utilizing one of the few Gen 4 drives out there, I see no reason to throw extra money at these motherboard vendors. And those companies probably don't like that I just said that, but I'm not in the business of pleasing any company. I'm really not in the business of pleasing anybody. If, however, you're upgrading from a much older platform, say the FX lineup or Haswell, Sandy Bridge, Ivy Bridge, you may see B550 as a common sense purchase, right? Because prices might be similar to B450 counterparts. You're also guaranteed native Zen 2 support with B550, whereas most B450 boards require BIOS updates, which in turn requires compatible CPU, and yeah, I mean, you can always ask for a dud from AMD, but don't expect it to arrive overnight. This isn't Amazon Prime shipping we're talking about. So the utility in B550 might be there for new platform entrants. I could see that. But if you're deciding between two identical boards, let's say one B550 and one B450, they're both Tomahawk boards from MSI, and you're saving 30 or 40 bucks on the latter, the B450 board, I'd personally just choose the latter. 40 bucks, that's a solid air cooler. It's a modest graphics card upgrade. It's the difference between a cheap DIY PC case and a friggin' Fractal Design Mesh FIC. And I value any of those over PCIe 4, especially if I don't already have a drive to take advantage of the extra bandwidth. Now, if you see yourself buying one of those drives in the next few months, okay, but then you have to ask yourself if you really benefit from much faster drives. In the real world, you probably can't tell much of a difference. It's nice when you're benchmarking and things like that, but I mean, systems are already super snappy on Gen 3 NVMe drives, so the jump to Gen 4, it could be noticeable in a few cases, but I think it'd be fine on PCIe 3 and Gen 3 drives. That's just me. I mean, sure, you could argue that B550 BIOSes could bring added overclocking benefits, perhaps even better power delivery, better cooling, better looks, better I/O. knows what else. But nothing in this world is free. Of that I can guarantee you. You'll be paying extra for literally every single one of these features. B450 still boasts XFR 2. It still has PBO, and it still has Store MI if you're into seamless drive unification, which is pretty cool. We haven't done a deep dive into how that works or what it can actually do, but it is something worth noting if you are already using it. And again, B450 boards won't cost nearly as much because they're already a generation old, so we might even see some discounts on those boards. This argument, by the way, is very similar for the jump that we were experiencing a year or two ago from B350 to 450. And I know plenty of people still rocking OG B350 boards. I'm trying to push your dollar as far as it'll go at the end of the day without a huge compromise. And I hope this video at least cleared up any doubt you had about sticking with your older B or X series board. If you're on X470 especially, I see no reason to buy X570 or even B550 unless you can get all of your money back for your X470 board and you really want Gen 4 speeds for that new NVMe drive. I mean, that's literally it. The only compelling quality I see is the Gen 4 bandwidth, and you'll need an expensive NVMe SSD to take advantage of it. I keep repeating that, but that's because that's really the only thing that is really worth mentioning. There are a few smaller things, but I'm not going to bother because most of those you won't see, again, in your average gaming session. I don't know. Doesn't make a lot of sense in my book to spend just as much on a single storage drive as you would on a value-oriented CPU like a 3600 or a 3300X for gaming. I wanted this to be a quick little reality check before these boards hit the shelves of e-retailers. It can be tempting to want to upgrade. Upgrading is fun, but it's often kind of pointless. It's just a short-term satisfaction, if you will. The upgrade needs a purpose. It needs utility. Otherwise, you're just throwing your money away for no reason. What do you guys think? Consider liking the video, subscribing, commenting down below, and I'll catch you in the next one. My name's Greg. Thanks for learning with me. I need to take a breather now.